Good evening. My name is Fred Gwynne, and I've got a secret.
I've Got a Secret, brought to you tonight by
Post Cereals, the cereals that make breakfast a little bit better. Post Cereals.
Up on Blueberry Hill, kids pick the biggest, bluest blueberries and eat them all day long. And now you can too. New Post cornflakes and blueberries. Real blueberries, all fresh freeze-dried and right inside with the cornflakes. Pour on milk and the blueberries get juicy again. Cornflakes and blueberries. Try cornflakes and strawberries too. Post cereals make breakfast a little bit better.
From New York, here is I've Got a Secret, starring Steve Allen.
Thank you. Good evening. Welcome once again to I've Got a Secret. Let's meet the members of our panel. They look very bright and shiny over there. First, there's lovely Bess Meyerson, then lovely Bill Cullen. Next, your friend and mine, lovely Jane Meadows, and lovely Henry Morgan. And we'll put our panel right to work by bringing out our first contestant. Here he comes. Nice to have you with us. All right, what's happened that's funny over
Henry
there?
had a great idea. He said, let's never refer to that thing.
Well, you never can tell now. Would you tell us your name, sir, and where you're from?
Yes, Paul Richards from Plymouth, Michigan.
All right. Now, Mr. Richards is an inventor, and this is, of course, his invention. So, Mr. Richards, if you will whisper to me, we'll show the audience just what that thing is. Mm-hmm. The clue to Mr. Richards' secret concerns his invention, of course, and what it does, and we'll start the game with Bill Cullen.
Mr. Richards, this invention looks to be a combination of electronics and a physical manifestation, or a physical whatever. Are both physical things and electronics involved?
Yes, they are.
Is there something else in addition to an electronic and a physical?
No, that covers it.
What do you mean by physical?
Like air or a pump, as opposed to a thing that an electronic thing. It looks like a machine to blow up a balloon. That's a wild guess.
No.
It sure is.
No, that's not right.
Is a machine to blow up a studio?
No.
Does it serve a useful purpose, Mr. Richards?
Oh, definitely, yes.
Could we all use it in our normal...
Yes.
Indeed. $20 down. Jane?
Would women possibly use it more than men, Mr. Richards?
I'd say no.
No, as much.
Does it make us physically better in some way, the using of it?
No.
It wouldn't have anything to do with reducing or something
No.
like that, then. But it
No.
is used on human beings?
No?
No.
Oh, it's
Not on human beings, no.
Is it used with another human being besides yourself?
No.
Would it be used in the home?
Yes.
Is it used in let's say, a utilitarian way, other like vacuuming or cleaning or for cooking or something like that?
No.
No. Does it have anything to do with electric light?
No.
Or heat?
Quite a few things eliminated. $40 down. Henry?
That's used in the home, eh?
Yes.
I can't see it too well. It's pretty big for my place. Does it have anything to do with air conditioning?
No.
Does it have anything to do with cooking?
No.
Only in a poetic sense.
In a poetic sense.
Forget
I wish
it.
you wouldn't talk to me, Steve.
I'm sorry, Henry. It'll mislead you, so forget it.
And does it make something edible?
No.
No.
Well, I was getting as poetic as I could. Does it make something?
Yes.
Now, in order for that to make something, you have to put something into it, some kind of raw, some unfinished substance, and this turns out a finished product.
Yes.
That is not edible. So, can you wear it?
No.
A very tough one, but let's see now. We go to Bess, $60
Now,
down.
it's a very big thing, and does it perform a little function? Well, let me ask you this.
Do you read?
Go for what I was doing. You put something
Now, wait
in
a
it and
minute.
make
I
something
am.
out of it.
Right, sir.
It's an argument machine.
I'm going to lose all my time. Mr. Richards, do you talk into that?
No.
If you do, you're pretty weird.
You are?
Yeah.
Is there anything that comes out of it that you can read or listen to?
Listen to, yeah.
Yes? Does it make musical sounds?
Mm-hmm.
It's an instrument. And no,
Not
it isn't
quite.
an instrument.
It's not a musical
recorder.
No. I think the panel's eyes are all beginning to light up. You're just about in the neighborhood now. Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Bells just tinkle, somebody fell down. Well, so much for that problem. We'll get back to this one now. Instead of describing this thing, let's let you see the middle section of it. Now, take another look, panel. Now, it's a piano player. Not a player piano, but a player. Oh, well. It's not, as I said, a player piano. This is an ordinary old-fashioned, not an old-fashioned, just a straightaway piano. And you put this thing right down on the keys. And how does it work, sir?
You simply set it on the keyboard, plug it in, a little slide keeps it from falling off, keeps children or inebriates from pulling it off.
Inebriate.
Well, anyone from pulling it off.
Yeah.
And,
Or inebriated children.
Right, exactly. And it's all ready to play the piano. You put piano rolls on just like the old player pianos. New rolls, old rolls.
How did you ever get started on this idea? Where did it come from?
Actually, I had made a study of the music industry and was quite amazed to find the vast number of pianos that are sitting idle, not being used. I thought it would be wonderful if we could find something that would help everyone enjoy their piano.
Well, I've made a study of the music industry, and I've discovered a lot of piano players that are idle. Just bring these two facts together, we'll have something.
Right.
Seriously, though, this is a marvelous idea, and I understand it's become kind of a community project.
It has, yes. And after we had developed it and invented it, we were looking for a community in which to locate a factory and a new company.
Mm-hmm.
We found that the little community of Plymouth, Michigan was quite cooperative and a very unusual little community. And as a result, about 61 people in the community of Michigan cooperated and joined their efforts together to make the new product, new factory possible.
I understand you're using people of advanced years.
Right, and in turn we're cooperating by employing senior citizens, high school co-op students, and others in manufacturing.
Well, this is that does deserve a round of applause. There's a suggestion that industry in general could kick around. It's a very fine idea. Now to get back to the device itself, Mr. Richards, you've already showed us that it's very simple. You just put it on top of the keys and plug it in.
Right.
And let's see what happens then.
Put a roll on, and we turn it on. It's fully automatic. It'll play one roll one time, re-roll and shut off, or play the same roll over and over.
I'm turning the volume control down so you can hear Mr. Richards' answers to any questions that occur to me. There's a speed control, is there?
That's correct. Maybe I could go real slow, real fast, let's see.
Now real slow.
Go way down. Stay with it or walk with it. Yeah. Also, the volume control is something that you can play with it. Playing with a light touch or heavy touch. There's a little plunger for each key. And as you increase the vacuum, it plays the piano harder, or decrease it, plays it more lightly.
Well, it's terrific. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Richards. That's fantastic. You had a question, Bess?
I just wondered how much it cost.
I don't know what it costs. $350. Sounds reasonable enough. Well, sir, we'll be back here in the bar room with you again in just a minute, but first, get a load of this.
Hi, I brought the napkins.
Good. Everything okay?
Mm-hmm. Coffee ready?
Making it now.
You're kidding. Instant coffee for the Bridge Club?
Not any instant. Maxwell House. You make it by the pot. Recipe's on the jar. The only one I dare serve my guests.
Well, it's your party. Harriet, they raved about the coffee. Of course, I knew they would.
Instant Maxwell House, the one instant coffee good enough to serve your guests.
Now, may we have our next contestant, please? Nice to have you with us. Would you tell everybody your name and where you're from?
If you'll pardon my prune-picking astrojet voice, my name is Ray Newby, Stockton, California.
All right. Mr. Newby actually has quite an amazing secret, so if you'll whisper to me, sir, we'll show the audience right off the bat what it is. Panel, the clue to Mr. Newby's secret concerns something he did way back in 1909, which Henry Morgan, Bill Cullen, and I have been known to do upon occasion. And we'll start the game with Bess Meyerson.
Now, what does Henry and Bill and you do on occasion? I can't mention that on the air. Mr. Newby, Mr. Newby, this thing that you did in 1909, did it take you off the ground?
I might have been, but
No. Was there a vehicle involved at all?
No.
Did it, was it a physical thing?
No.
More mental than physical?
Half and half.
Did it happen, did you do it indoors rather than outdoors? Is that important?
Indoors, I'd say.
I see. Now, is anybody else mentioned in your secret? Could a girl have done it as well as a young man?
Could have, but it would have been less likely. $20 down. Bill Cullen?
I'm trying to think along the same line. The one thing that you and Henry and I might have done in common, does it have anything to do with radio? Were you in 56 years ago, and there's something wrong with the date, but were you at the time an announcer on a radio station or on a radio program?
yes.
In 1909?
Yes.
Right.
You're
That's
almost...
before it was invented almost.
Yes, that's why nobody listened to him. He just sat in his bedroom and said, hello, folks, No, seriously.
That's the most of it.
He was announcing on the radio, but there's a little more.
Was it a first?
Yes.
Was it a particular event that you covered as a newsman?
Not necessarily myself. There are.
Okay, $40 down. Jane?
Was it the first program to be broadcast on the radio?
Well, it might have been, but that's not exactly the secret.
Or was Mr. Newby's the first voice to have been heard on radio in America?
It's not quite it either.
But it was a first, and it had to do with radio. Was it coming out of Stockton?
No. Well, no, but that's irrelevant.
That's irrelevant. It was the first announcer on radio to be heard anywhere.
With a pencil in his hand.
Doing a commercial. Doing a commercial?
No, $60 down. You're all very close to it. Henry?
Gee, I didn't think there was a voice transmission then. I was trying to think of when Marconi first did the transcontinental to Europe thing from Massachusetts. Were you heard in Europe?
It doesn't involve that.
A ship at sea?
No.
No. If he was, it's irrelevant.
Well, I mean, it's not in that area at all about distance or anything like that.
No.
It has to do with being first.
Yes.
All right. Now,
specifically, we already established the first part of it. It's what he was, the first thing of.
All right. Now, did you own the first transmitter, the first radio station? It has nothing to do with ownership.
Not entirely.
Not entirely. Were you an amateur? Well, you must have been.
Oh, yes. We all were then.
So,
a lot of us
did
still
you
are,
make,
as a matter of fact.
you had, of course, been. Did you make the first contact with somebody else by radio?
Not quite, Henry. In 1909, at the age of 16, Mr. Newby was gainfully employed at a job that you panelists now can hardly believe existed in 1909. Ray Newby's secret is that 56 years ago, he was the world's first radio disc jockey. Mr. Newby has brought along a picture here which will save us a few thousand words, just to give you a brief peek at the actual studio from which they used to broadcast in those days. You can't see it too well, but there's a record turntable right here, and this, of course, is all the primitive equipment. Is that where you used to play those first records, sir?
Right.
That's fantastic. What records did you use?
Oh, we used all of popular records at that time, mainly Caruso records, because they were very good and loud. We needed to boost.
I see. Well, now, Henry and Bill have both mentioned this peculiarity of the date. Most of us don't think of radio broadcasting as having started till the 20s. How do you account for this 1909 date?
Well, we started on an experimental basis, and then because this is novel, we stayed on schedule continually without leaving the air at any time from that time on, except for a very short time during World War I when the government required us to remove the antenna.
Even before that time, people had broadcast from one location to one other location, but this was the first all-points broadcasting, so far as I know. What was it why did you start broadcasting records instead of just news and commentary?
Longer time, steady, better quality, and
probably the same reasons.
News. We played most of our programming was records, I'll admit. But of course we gave out news as we could obtain it.
Some of you youngsters may be wondering what the heck you listened to radio with in those days, and we have one of the actual things now.
No tubes.
Yeah, no tubes to this. This, of course, is what we call a crystal set, and I guess we still do, for that matter. You had to use earphones, and this little device here was kind of the heart of the thing. There's a crystal right there, and this little tiny metal wire or filament, whatever you call it, if you scrape it across that, you might hear something. I have the speaker, rather the earphones. Oh, I dropped this a while ago. I may have broken it. Probably that's what happened. Well, you'll have to take my word for it. It was working a little earlier this evening. Can you hear anything? No. Just my notice is just coming in over this thing here, ladies and gentlemen. I said you're through. Well, Mr. Newby, thank you very much for being with us and telling us about this historic event. And continued good luck to you.
My pleasure.
Thank you. We'll meet our special guest for tonight in just a moment, but first let's take time out for a special message from our sponsor.
There are a lot of good reasons to use DreamWhip instead... Excuse me, sir. Pardon me, you're on camera.
Oh, sure. Go on rehearsing. Don't worry about me.
Well, actually, I'm not so much worried about you as I am about my commercial. I am trying, if you don't mind, to tell the people about DreamWhip.
So tell me. If you can sell me, who knows, you might be good enough to make it on TV.
As long as you're here, why don't you sit down and be comfortable? You see, there is a lot more to DreamWhip than just the flavor of whipped cream.
Such as?
Well, DreamWhip stays fresh in the box. It can't go sour.
So far, so good. Now, don't get nervous.
And you can spoon on plenty of DreamWhip because it has only 14 calories per tablespoon.
Not enough oomph, baby. Like this. So just remember, folks, always
You know, you really are on television. Look, right there, TV, see? Now, actually, what he's trying to say is there's a lot more to DreamWhip than just the flavor of whipped cream.
It's time to meet our special guest for tonight, the star of the hit comedy series The Munsters. Here is Herman Munster himself, Fred Gwynne. Fred, we're very happy, naturally, to have you with us. I must ask, naturally, what are you doing with all those books?
These are a few reference books and dictionaries, which I think we're going to need after the show tonight, to settle some arguments about the origin of words.
I understand you're going to give our panel a test, is that right?
Correct. And it's based on something that happened to me just recently. I went to a Dodger baseball game, and the question came up, why were they called the Dodgers?
If I can hazard a guess, it was because when the Brooklyn team started many years ago, they were not very good, and that's a fact. And people threw pop bottles and... No. Well, everybody's telling me I'm wrong. Am I wrong?
Trolley Dodgers.
They dodge trolley cars.
That's right. How do you like that for a smart fan?
Well, that's the last one we'll get right. We're out of the rest of it.
And that concludes our program, ladies and gentlemen. 27 minutes early. But that is the idea now. You're going to give us some words, huh?
Right. And
we'll find out how they
let's
started.
divide the panel into teams. Bess and Bill.
Fine.
And Jane and Henry.
All right.
Okay. Now, what we'll do here is a little competition between these two teams. Whatever one of you says, if the other team can improve it, great. And if you want to sit with it, that's okay, too.
Very good.
We'll start with Bess and Bill. What's the first phrase or word you have for them?
The first word is sparking. As in the expression, the young couple is sparking, which means they're keeping company according.
Bess and Bill?
Well, I should think, Bill, that if you would know what it meant electrically speaking, but if two things meet and sparks fly, the same thing would happen when two lovers meet and sparks fly. You know, sparking would mean...
Very romantic.
It started with the Flintstones, a lovely couple. May I
You can
disagree
improve
with Bess?
No, you may not. You have to arrive at a consensus among your...
Well, the reason that people do this because in the early days when they stayed up late spooning, the fire kept going and it got low and the wind blowing across made sparks come out the chimney.
There's two theories.
And they said...
Okay, Jane and Henry, what do you say?
I think they're right.
Jane, do you agree?
Yeah, but which one do we think is right?
Oh, I think that Bill is right.
Thank you, Henry.
Okay,
I think
Fred?
you're right next time.
What's the real answer?
And that concludes our show the second time. The real answer is just that. In the early days of, the sparks coming out of the chimney. Not the Flintstones. Evidently, in the early days, the nosy people would come around and see if the boy and girl were still up, and they'd say, "Oh, they're still sparking."
Yeah. What'd you say, Jane?
Well, now who won? Did we win because we guessed?
No, Bill won.
Bill won, I
Yes.
guess.
Since you asked. What's the next word or phrase?
So the next word is ham actors. Why do you think some actors are referred to as hams?
Let's start with
or not so good actors.
Start with Henry and Jane on this one.
I think probably that in the early days, actors may have been paid off in barter, food, you know. And an actor who really hammed it up was working hard to get more food, maybe.
You agree, Henry?
No. This is a real dinger. Ham used with an actor comes from the days when actors used ham fat as part of their makeup.
Oh, yeah.
Well, let's see what Bill and Bess have to say about that.
Well, he's a very erudite man, Henry.
I'm also a big lawyer, you know.
What do you think, Bill?
I have to go along with Jane because my understanding is that the actors in the early days touring the rural areas were paid off with hams. If they were great, they got a ham, and if they weren't so good, they got like a pork chop.
I was just making all that up.
All right, Fred, who's right, if any?
Henry is right, but it's not totally right.
It's what?
What's the story?
It's not totally right. Well, there's a little bit more to that, which is kind of interesting, is that in the early days, the low-grade actors, and I never knew this before, that the minstrel shows especially were low-grade actors, certainly in the sense that they weren't paid much. So that they were known as ham fatters because they took off their makeup with ham fat.
Couldn't afford cold cream, is that the idea?
Rather than cold cream.
I see. Have another one?
What is the derivation of the word dumbbell as used in connection with a gym or a bodybuilding course, etc.?
We'll go back to Bill and Bess's first crack at this one.
You mean, where did the word originate from?
Mm-hmm. Why do they call it a dumbbell instead of a ring ding?
I guess because it looks like a bell and it doesn't say
Doesn't make any
anything.
sound.
All right, Jane and Henry, what do you say?
Well, yeah, it looks like two clappers end to end, two bell clappers stuck together, but they don't make no noise.
Yeah.
Unless you
All right, what's the verdict, Professor?
The verdict is that they've been awfully close all evening.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, actually, in the early days, the people who were bell ringing did, a very manual type of exercise, and they were all quite strong. So that someone came along and developed an early exerciser, which was in the same theory of the ropes, and it was the same type of thing, except, of course, the bell did not ring, and therefore it was a dumb bell.
Fascinating. Give us a little.
Now we come to the question, that's the ticket. This is kind of a nice one.
Mm-hmm.
What is the derivation of that's the ticket, meaning that's the right thing to do or the right way to act?
Jane and Henry?
That's a ticket.
Yeah, that's the ticket.
Go
You
ahead,
take it
sweetheart.
first.
Now you go ahead.
That's the ticket. That's the way to act. Well, it has undoubtedly to do with buying a ticket, doesn't it? That's the way to act, to buy one and not to try to cheat and get in free, sneak in, or that's not a very good idea, I'll try another one. I have no
idea, Henry. What do you think it is?
No, I think your lead is marvelous. I'm going to follow it.
Really?
It's like guys making up fake tickets to get into some exhibit or a theater, and that's thrown out, and when a guy produces the real one, the answer is that's the ticket.
Reasonable assumption. What do you say, Bill and Bess?
We think they're both right. No?
What's the real truth?
I'm going along with you, yeah.
The real truth is, it's rather interesting. It comes from a mispronunciation, my golly, I said the word right, of the word or the phrase, that's etiquette.
Oh, not really.
And a lot of the people around 1838, to be precise, said they put the syllable on the second syllable. So it came out, that's etiquette.
They put the emphasis.
Oh, that's...
Right, the emphasis.
You can learn from these. We've discovered this afternoon discussing these that as soon as all of us here on the team learned, I don't mean the panel, they weren't here until showtime, but the rest of us, when we learned the answers to these things, we all said, gee, that's dumb. And that is precisely the way languages are put together, by a series of thousands and thousands of kind of stupid ways of coming about. Languages are never planned. That's one of the reasons we all have such trouble communicating. And I better stop communicating right now and say that we'll be right back in a moment. Let's pause for this important message.
This is Springtime in New England. Here in New England, as all over America, people are turning to the taste that's springtime fresh. The taste of Salem cigarettes. Salem, America's favorite menthol cigarette, the largest selling by far, because Salem brings you rich tobacco taste, menthol soft flavor. Salem refreshes your taste.
Try something different for a change. Turn to Salem, for a taste that's springtime fresh.
Try Salem filter cigarettes for a change.
We have just a few seconds. You have one more word, Fred?
Give us the derivation of the word windfall, meaning...
When they blow stuff off trees like the fruit, at the end of the season, the wind comes and blows the fruit down on the ground, so you can get it from the ground instead of climbing a tree.
Bill says it has to do with sailing days.
Sailing days when the windfall would be correct.
I think Henry's had the biggest percentage tonight. It's very close to that in the 1680s or the 1700s in England or earlier.
Well, they were allowed to pick up what was on the ground.
When the king owned all the land, the people who lived on the land could pick up a tree if it had fallen over with the wind.
Well, it's been a wonderful windfall having you with us. Good night, everybody. We're a little late. Hey!
I've Got a Secret has been brought to you tonight by Instant Maxwell House. The instant coffee good enough to serve your guests. Another fine product of General Foods. Miss Meyerson's Gown by Cameo.
Funnier than ever, say the critics about Shirley Booth as Hazel. You will, too, when you watch her peddle real estate in order to finance a beauty course on Hazel in color later tonight.
This program was pre-recorded. This is John Cannon speaking.